So am I audible? My screen is visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think we stopped here in the last class. So the theoretically maximum how much voltage one can get from a fuel cell you can obtain from Gibbs equation, standard Gibbs equation, taking one fuel cell as an example, that is hydrogen oxygen fuel cell. So an hydrogen oxygen fuel cell can theoretically give 1.23 voltage. Okay, so let's go ahead. Anything would like to add from previous class? We just started on the fuel cells. See how many times I have to go back and accept. Okay, see. Okay. So we started with the fuel cells. Fuel cells are electrochemical devices. They are also galvanic cells. They develop positive potentials, and they have, in addition to three usual components, they have a fuel and oxidant. Fuel is oxidized at the anode and oxygen is reduced at the cathode. So there is a generation of potential and there is an associated free energy change that is linked with the free electrochemical potential through Gibbs equation. And depending on the fuel cell, you get a theoretical voltage of about 1.23 voltage. And it is a sustainable source. So in a sense that as long as you feed the fuel, it can generate the electrical energy. Once you stop the feeding the fuel to the fuel cell, it will stop producing the electrical energy. It's a sustainable sources of energy. So since as long as the fuel is fed, you can get the electrical energy. And since the components, major components driving the electrical potentials are gaseous state, and this kind of device is also known as gas battery or flow battery, gas flow battery, whatnot. So the father of the fuel cell is none other than the Sir William Grew, who came up with this concept of combining hydrogen and oxygen on an efficient electrode to derive water out of electricity. I hope he is the last one. Binto is the last one joining the class. Okay, so let's go further. So the complete schematic view of the fuel cell is shown here. There are several components, as we know. So we have a anode, cathode, electrolyte, fuel, intake, etc. How this fuel cell is operating, how this fuel cell is generating the electrical energy, it would be a good question to ask. So the first and the foremost is you can see that the reactants are transported to the catalyst site. What are the reactant? So at the anode side, the reactant is fuel. This is the fuel. Maybe hydrogen, methanol, ethanol, ethylene glycol, or ammonia, carbon monoxide, etc. At the cathode side, the reactant is oxygen. It is fed. So delivery of reactant to the respective catalyst. Then the catalyst the reactant undergoes reaction. Fuel undergoes oxidation at anode, second step. Then oxygen undergoes reduction, the second step. This essentially requires a catalyst. Hydrogen cannot be simply decomposed on its own. Even if you take hydrogen in a vessel and start eating, nothing will happen. Maybe if it is in contact with the oxygen, it will be a bursting, explosion will take place. Otherwise, it will not decompose. Hydrogen cannot be simply decomposed without the use of a catalyst. I hope it is recording. Please confirm one of you whether it is recording or not.
It's recording.
Okay.
Yes, sir, it's recording.
Okay. So unless you have a catalyst, hydrogen cannot be decomposed or hydrogen cannot be oxidized to H plus and electrons. You require a catalyst. Similarly, oxygen also requires a catalyst in order to get reduced to oxide ion. It may be a O2 minus or O2 minus or O2 minus. So we have oxide, superoxide, peroxide, three oxides. Okay, so it requires a catalyst. That's why we require a anode catalyst and a cathode catalyst. It so happened that in most cases the anode catalyst and the cathode catalyst can be similar. That's why you see symmetric electrodes, symmetric catalyst. It may be a platinum, mostly platinum, mostly platinum. So once the reactions taking place, so hydrogen undergoes oxidation, so producing H plus and electron. So as we know that the electron has to travel through the circuit, it cannot travel through the electrolyte, whereas ion can travel through the electrolyte. Here the ion is H plus. So H plus solvated with the solvent molecules can travel through the electrolyte or the membrane and will reach at the cathode compartment. Whereas the electron will travel through the circuit and will reach at the anode surface, anode catalyst, where oxygen is getting reduced. So then we have H plus and oxygen is undergoing reduction with the help of the coming electron from the anode. So oxygen becomes O2 minus or O2 minus depending on the catalyst. We have H plus. So wherever we have H plus and O2 minus, so then negative charge and positive charge, they will combine and make a product. So that product is none other than the water. None other than the water. Somebody joined. How will I go? So the product is none other than the water. So when it happens, there is a generation of potential 1.23 theoretically, depending on the catalyst, fuel, and the electrolyte concentration, conductivity, etc. So you may get 1.23 or 1.2 or less than 1 voltage. A single fuel cell will generate such a electrochemical energy or electrochemical potential. Depending on the area and the size of the plates, you may get a reasonable current or charge that or the power. We will have a terminology, different terminologies later, maybe next class. So you have a generation of electrical potential, electrical current, or the electrical power. Okay, so this is how the fuel cell works. Unlike in the case of batteries, one electrode undergoes oxidation, another electrode undergoes reduction. So then or intercalation, deintercalation in the case of lithium ion battery, and in the case of lead acid battery, one electrode undergoes oxidation, another electrode undergoes reduction, and there is no fuel in batteries. But in the case of gas battery, there is a fuel and oxidant to be there. So there you may require only, I think I have a difference between battery and battery and fuel cells later. Okay, so this is how the fuel cell works. So reactant or the fuels are delivered, which undergoes oxidation, then undergoes reduction, oxidation or reduction. Ion is moving through the electrolyte, or electron is moving through the circuit. Then the formed H plus and OH minus, oxygen minus combines and produces water. And when it happens, there is a generation of electrical energy or electrical potential. The water has to be continuously removed. Otherwise, the fuel cell will get clogged. Okay, water management in fuel cell is a very big challenge. Temperature management is a big challenge in fuel cell. If you have a one fuel cell, it may not be a big problem. But if you have your stacks of fuel cells, hundreds of fuel cell, the water generated is a huge amount. We have a numerical, at least 2-3 numerical problems. As I told in the last class, fuel cells are water generating engines, fuel cell engines. So it's not just a fuel cell device. So water management and temperature management are very important, big issues in fuel cell technologies. So you might be wondering how a fuel cell would be or how the fuel cell is. You would have seen lithium ion battery or lead acid battery, how it is. This is how a single fuel cell would look like, or it is. This is a typical fuel cell, a single polymer electrolyte membrane fuel cell or hydrogen oxygen fuel cell. It's about 5 by 5 centimeter fuel cell. So depending on the area, the size can be larger, 25 by 25 centimeter, or 10 by 10 centimeter, or 5 by 5 centimeter, 2 by 2 centimeter, depending on the requirements of the power and the voltage, the size will vary. So we have I think I exploded view. I think it is coming up later. So this is how your fuel cell would be. You can see that there is a serpentine flow through which oxygen, the other side hydrogen will flow, and there is inside the membrane, electrode membrane assembly, which is the heart of the fuel cell, where we have the electrodes, the catalyst, anode catalyst and the cathode catalyst, where the reaction taking place and splitting the hydrogen into H plus and making the oxygen into oxide ion. So it drives the electrical potential generations. This is the typical, but unfortunately I don't have the video of this one. This is not a single fuel cell, it is a stack of fuel cell. At least 25 fuel cells are there. At least 25 fuel cells are there in this. So for real application, a single fuel cell may not be useful, or you may not be able to power a consumer electronics significantly, or drive or make functional consumer electronics with a single fuel cell. You require multiple fuel cells, may be connected in series and in parallel. As you require batteries in series and in parallel, you require definitely series connected fuel cells in order to use fuel cell effectively for consumer electronics or any other applications. Okay, so we have seen the requirement of a fuel, previous class, or the classification of the fuels. Classification of the fuels we have seen, and how the fuels look like we have seen. What are the characteristics of the fuels, and what are the requirements of a catalyst? Whether any gaseous species or liquid species can be used as a fuel, or whether any material can be used as a catalyst, that should be the question. Next. So when we want to use something as a fuel for fuel cell application, it should satisfy these characteristics. What are the characteristics? So like this. I don't know. So it should be electrochemically active. So it means that the fuel intended to use for fuel cell application should be able to electrochemically undergo oxidation, and it should be widely available, and it must be easy to produce. The production of the fuel must be very easy, convenient. It must be easy to storage, and it must be conveniently transportable and distributed elsewhere. Like a gasoline, very easy to transport and distribute. Hardly accidents are occurring with the transportation of the gasoline or LPGs. Hardly. Okay. So any fuel that we want to use it for fuel cell application should be easy to transport and distribute, and it should be very safety to handle. It may not. It is not one fuel cell that we want to use it. So, for example, if you want to power to the whole Pondicherry University, how many fuel cells you may require? How many stacks you may require? How much platinum membrane fuel require? Barrels of hydrogen or methanol, ethanol, ethylene glycol, ammonia, carbon monoxide you require? You can think of, and that much fuel has to be transported, handled. So safety is very important, especially when you are dealing with a hydrogen. It must be ensured to have a very high safety, and using of such fuel should not harm the environment again. So use of such fuel should not harm the environment, environmentally benign, and it must be possible to refuel. It's not just use and throw. A barrel of hydrogen use and throw, no. The barrel has to be possible to refill. The fuel should have the features to refill, and so that you can use it at any number of times. So if I adopt these attractive features or essential features, not many fuels will survive for fuel cell applications. What about catalyst? whether anything can be used as a catalyst, whether nickel can be used as a fuel cell catalyst, or platinum can be used as a fuel cell catalyst, ruthenium, or metal oxides, sulfides, carbides, carbon nanotube, graphite, whether all these can be used as a catalyst? No. The first and foremost is the catalyst must decompose the fuel into respective ions. It must have a very high activity towards oxidation of the fuel. So when we want to use hydrogen as a fuel, the catalyst must decompose hydrogen into H+. If the fuel is methanol, the catalyst must oxidize methanol into H+ and CO2. If it is ethylene glycol, much higher alcohol, so the catalyst must have a sufficient activity in order to decompose or oxidize ethylene glycol into H+ and CO or CO2. And essentially, the catalyst should be having a conductivity. It cannot be inert, because so once the oxidation taking place, whether it is a hydrogen, methanol, ethanol, ethylene glycol, carbon monoxide, etc., there is a generation of electron. Oxidation of hydrogen generates H+ and electron. I am sure you will agree with me by this time. Oxidation of methanol releases H+ and electron. Oxidation of carbon monoxide releases CO2 and electron. So in all cases, oxidation of something, electrochemical oxidation, releases the electron. So the catalyst must be conductive so that the generated electron can be transported to the current collector. If not, so the charge or the electron generated will be utilized in order to overcome the conductivity or the resistance itself. We will lose all the performances. We will not be able to generate the potentials or the current. So two main requirements for a catalyst, of course, it should be affordable and easily available. All those things you can add it, but prominently a fuel cell catalyst must have high activity towards oxidation of the fuel and also should have a high conductivity. The another connected component in fuel cell is membrane, and of course you can call this as a electrolyte also in the case of PEMFC. Very specifically, whenever we have a proton exchange membrane, it acts as an electrolyte as well as the separator, as we know. As we know that membrane is nothing but separator in electrochemical cell. In the conventional or in the modern, the old terminology for the membrane, as we know, it is salt bridge, separator or membrane. So we cannot use simply anything as a membrane in fuel cell application or for fuel cell applications. It must have some desirable features. These are the desirable features the membrane should have it. What is the purpose of membrane having in the fuel cell? So hydrogen is oxidized, it releases the H+, and oxygen is reduced, it produces O2 minus. O2 minus will stay here. The H+ has to come to cathode compartment. So it means, so we cannot just simply have a anode catalyst and a cathode catalyst. It will short circuit. So we must separate anode catalyst or anode and cathode in order to have a closed circuit without short circuit. So we must have a separator or membrane. And here H+ must travel through the electrolyte or travel through the membrane and reach at the cathode compartment. Okay, so then this membrane should have some features. We cannot take anything and use it as a membrane. And here H+ must be transported. Maybe in the case of MCFC, what is MCFC? What is MCFC? One of you please respond. Last class we have seen. Molten carbonate fuel cells. Are you with me? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so it must have high ionic conductivity. Here we are talking about the requirement of transporting H+ to cathode compartment. Then the membrane should have high cation proton conductivity. High proton conductivity. When you deal with alkali fuel cells, AFC, alkali fuel cells, AFC, the membrane should have high ionic conductivity toward transport of OH minus. Similarly, carbonate, maybe fluoride or anything for that matter. Okay, so if the membrane must have very high ionic conductivity. So if you have a very high ionic conductivity, it will reduce the resistive losses. The resistive losses due to the membrane as well as the electrolyte can be less. So that whatever the ion current generated, whatever the charge generated or the electron released can travel through the circuit. Okay, so it must have low electronic conductivity. What will happen if the membrane has a high electronic conductivity? Can one of you respond? What will happen if the membrane is electronically conducting?
The H plus ion will pass through, sir.
So when the membrane is having high electronic conductivity, H plus will pass through
Membrane, sir.
No, the purpose of having membrane is to pass through membrane only. Okay, anyway, the electron and the proton has to pass through. So that is possible when we have a high ionic conductivity. Okay, what if the membrane is having high electronic conductivity? What is electronic conductivity? Ionic conductivity we know. I think I told in other classes. Ionic conductivity, conduction by the movement of ions. It may be H plus or it may be a Cl minus or sulfate, carbonate, nitrates, chloride, borate, or any ion for that matter. Aluminum, lithium ion conductor, sodium ion conductor, nacicon, nisicon, lisicon, etc. They are all ionic conductors. What is electronic conductor? Electronic conduction is due to the movement of electrons. Electronic conduction is by the movement of electrons. So the conduction is established by hopping of the electron or by movement of the electron is the electronic conductivity. There is another terminology, mixed conductors. Ionic conductor, otherwise it is called the electrolyte. Electronic conductors, they are semiconductor, insulators or metallics. What is mixed conductors? They have both ionic conductivity and electronic conductivity. Depending on the temperature, one will be lifted. The contribution by one component will be higher. Usually ionic conductivity increases at the temperature, you would have read it. Electronic conductivity decreases. There is a phonon, vibration of lattices, you would have read it. I'm not going into that. What will happen if you have your electronic conductivity high for the membrane that is used in fuel cell?
There is no generation of electricity, sir.
There is no generation of electricity?
Because electron is not following the path, external circuitry.
Okay, so better version, better explanation anyone can think of? What will happen? So already the electrodes are conductors, right? The previous slide we have seen, we have a cathode catalyst, anode catalyst. The requirement is it should have high activity towards oxidation of fuel, maybe in the case of anode catalyst, and reduction ability in the case of cathode catalyst. And they must be conducting, high conductivity. This is also electronic conductor, this is also electronic conductor. Now we want to sandwich membrane, here, membrane. So if I touch these two conductors, what will happen? This is a cathode and this is an anode. If I touch, what will happen? It will be short circuited. Okay, it will be short circuit. It will not serve the purpose of anode and the cathode. It will behave as one electrode. So we need to have a separator. If now that separator is having high ionic electronic conductivity, what will happen? Again, short circuit will take place. So that is why the membrane should have low electronic conductivity, which will minimize current losses. And in addition to ionic conductivity, high and low electronic conductivity, the membrane should have very good chemical stability, both at the anode side and the cathode side. Because we will be using either acid as an electrolyte or base as an electrolyte. Either sulfuric acid as an electrolyte or KOH as an electrolyte. Both are corrosive. Acid also corrosive, KOH is also a corrosive. And in both the environment, the membrane must be stable enough. And moreover, the membrane should have very low fuel crossover. What do you understand from the fuel crossover? Low fuel crossover. One of you please respond. Low fuel crossover. Please explain, one of you, this terminology. What do you understand from the terminology? Low fuel crossover. Quickly, please. Even if it is not correct, don't mind. Please speak. What is crossover? Crossing over, right? Here we are crossing over. We are talking about fuel cell. Maybe something should cross the membrane. We already know that H plus must cross membrane to the cathode from the anode. Here fuel crossover. Then hydrogen must be crossing over. Or methanol, if it is a methanol fuel, methanol must be crossing over. That must be low. So it means what? Whatever the fuel that we feed to the anode should stay at the anode side. It should not move through the membrane and reach at the cathode side. Oh, something can happen. Yes, it happens not in hydrogen oxygen fuel cell, very minimum in hydrogen oxygen fuel cell, but one of the syndromes in methanol fuel cell. And if Nafion is the membrane and methanol is the fuel, there is a significant fuel crossover. What is the problem with the fuel crossover? We will see more on this in the methanol fuel cell later. What do you think will happen if the fuel methanol is crossing over to the cathode from the anode? What will happen? Can you think of something?
Purity will
Yes.
be
Yes.
purity, sir. Purity will be less.
Okay. So if purity will be problem. Anything else? So the purpose of having a methanol fuel is to undergo oxidation at the anode side. Then H plus will be released. Okay, H plus will be released. H plus will be released. But instead of methanol undergoing oxidation at the anode, so it moves through the membrane and reaches the cathode. Correct? What is the problem with this? That much methanol is not available on the anode side. You must have had 10 liters of methanol. At least 1 liter of methanol is crossing over to the cathode. So then you are losing the performance of 1 liter of methanol that is used to generate the electrical energy. Performance is reduced. One point. Another point, the methanol crossing to the cathode side through the membrane is not sitting ideally there. It is not sleeping there. It does something else. Instead of undergoing oxidation, it undergoes reduction. It undergoes reduction. At the cathode, what reaction we require? We require reduction. What reduction? Oxygen reduction, not methanol reduction or fuel reduction. If any fuel is undergoing reduction at the anode, at the cathode, we have a generation of mixed potential. We have a development of mixed potential. So whenever there is a appearance of mixed potential by crossing over the fuel, it will reduce the cell voltage significantly. This is very significant in methanol fuel cells. That is the low. So the fuel should stay at the anode side, whether it is a hydrogen, methanol, or ethanol, or any other fuel. It should not cross the membrane. The membrane should arrest. No, don't go. I will not allow. You should stay here in the cathode side. Anode side. I will not allow you to enter cathode side. The membrane should be of that much alert. It should allow, or it should not allow the fuel to cross over, or low fuel crossover if at all. Then mechanically robust and must be easy to manufacture easily. This mechanical strength is very important because already we have seen chemical stability. It is oxidizing environment and reducing environment. The membrane should not undergo oxidation or either reduction. It should stay as such. Not only that, it should not get teared mechanically. Okay, so fuel would be fed, oxygen would be fed. Okay, so that should not lead to tearing of the membranes. It's like a sheet. Membrane is not something. It's like a sheet. I have it. We have in the lab. It's a sheet. Okay, and before you use it, you immerse in by electrolyte and make it the fabrication of the fuel cell. When you do so, it should not undergo tearing, mechanical tearing, and it should be easy to manufacture. So if I combine all these features, there are not many survivable, or there are not many membranes. Only countable number of membranes available. The most exploited membrane is Nafion. The most exploited membrane, fuel cell membrane, is Nafion, which is very, very expensive. Very, very expensive, you believe it or not. At least 20% of the fuel cell cost must be borne to the membrane. Another 20 to 30% of the cost must be borne for the catalyst. So this membrane and the catalyst alone will account for more than 50 to 60% of the fuel cell cost, whether it is a single fuel cell or multiple series or parallel connected fuel cells. That is one of the reasons why fuel cells are not taken this much wide availability. Very expensive to have, maybe for electric traction, just by exclusively powered by the fuel cells. You will have to spend a lot of catalyst, membrane, platinum. That is one of the reasons. More on the fuel cell prices maybe later we will see. Okay. All in all, fuel cell also has a lot of merits, as you see here. Though it looks very stringent in terms of affordability, but fuel cell offers better advantages. So fuel cells are the clean and green energy generators. Unlike gasoline vehicles, gasoline engines, which also can use fuels, chemical fuels, but they produce toxic gases, unlike fuel cells. Fuel cells are clean and green energy generators. And fuel cells are having higher efficiency. As high as 60% to 90% fuel cell efficiency one can obtain. The efficiency is not limited by the thermodynamics, unlike Carnot engines or gasoline engines. Whereas it is limited by the fuel cell catalyst or the poor conductivity of the membrane or the electrolyte, not thermodynamic. Thermodynamic doesn't limit the fuel cell efficiency. And in fuel cells, there are no moving parts, unlike combustion engines. I think we have a comparison with the combustion engines. In fuel cells, you can have a silent engine. No noise, no particulate emissions, no CO2. Maybe if it is a carbon related fuel, we may have a CO2 emission, but there are no CO emissions. If it is hydrogen, forget about no emission at all. If it is a hydrogen as a fuel, there are no emissions at all. That is why it is clean and green energy generator. Silent, mechanically robust. And if hydrogen fuel transportation is taken care, the fuel cell can be very much transported to elsewhere, anywhere. But so like other systems, the fuels are also having a demerits or disadvantages. It is very expensive for large applications. Very large applications, it is very, very expensive. The expensiveness of this fuel cell comes from the membrane and the fuel cell catalyst, and then overall manufacturing. And there is a limitation in availability of the fuel. Raw hydrogen is not available. Raw methanol may be hardly available. Or similarly, ethanol, it has to be manufactured. Hydrogen must be captured from the atmosphere or by reforming the fuel, hydrogen containing biomass into hydrogen. Hydrogen must be reformed. Fuel must be reformed in order to make hydrogen fuel available, as there are no raw hydrogen available on the air. Very, very low. But hydrogen in the form of biomass, hydrogen in the form of water, plenty available. You need to reform them. There is a separate fuel cell field, reformation of the fuel cells, fuel for fuel cell applications. And another syndrome is the power density is very, very poor. Very low power density. If you remember the Ragone plot or Ragone plot, energy density versus the power density, fuel cells sits at the top of the energy density. Energy density, again, it is linked with the barrel of hydrogen or quantity of hydrogen or the fuel. But power density is minimum, very low, lower than batteries. Forget about supercapacitor, lower than the batteries. So these are the syndromes. And especially when you want to use fuel cell for a lesser application, maybe laptops, your smartphone, or small electronic gadgets, this is the issue. So it means something has to be done. Power need to be increased. Power density need to be increased. Energy density for the smaller application need to be increased. These are the challenges, disadvantages. People like you in future must be able to contribute for solving these issues, those who are interested. So this brings the comparison between the fuel cell versus the batteries. I'm sure now you know many features of the batteries. And now we are seeing about the fuel cell features. How will you compare battery and the fuel cells? I think someone raised such point in the last class. Both are electrochemical device, no doubt in that. Both are galvanic cells because they generate positive potentials. And both use three major components: anode, cathode, electrolyte. But in addition to that, there are differences between batteries and fuel cells. So as I told in the previous class, fuel cells are open system, whereas batteries are closed system. Last class we have defined three systems: open system, closed system. Another system is, what is another system?
Isolated system.
Isolated system. It neither exchanges the energy nor the mass. Whereas closed system can exchange energy, not the mass. Whereas open system can exchange mass as well as the energy. Hydrogen containing mass, containing energy. Oxygen containing mass, containing energy. So from the surrounding, it takes up. Your fuel cell is the system and the surrounding is the environment. Exchange of fuel and oxygen between the fuel cell and the surrounding, it's a thermodynamically open system. Whereas once you make the fabrication of the battery, the amount of material embedded in the anode as well as the cathode is fixed. There is no addition or removal, but it can release the energy to the surrounding. It's a thermodynamically closed system. It's a thermodynamically closed system. So fortunately or unfortunately for fuel cells, the anode and the cathodes are gaseous state. Please remember, hydrogen is the anode, oxygen is the cathode. To decompose hydrogen and to reduce the oxygen, you require anode catalyst and a cathode catalyst. And it is essentially mostly platinum. That is why it is very expensive. If I ask you what is the platinum cost today in Pondicherry or elsewhere, you must be able to tell. What is the rough price of 1 gram of platinum currently? If not, boys, girls must be knowing through your parents or even yourself. What is the cost of 1 gram of platinum? Or what is the cost of a gold, 1 gram of gold today or recently? You know, these days not only women are interested in gold, even men are also interested in gold these days. You know, what is the price of gold 1 gram? Roughly
5,000.
5,000. Okay. Platinum, roughly how much it would be?
2,600.
2,500?
700.
Yes, sir.
2,700.
Nearly double. Maybe if this is 5,000, if gold is 5,000, platinum is double, 10,000 per gram. Double the price of gold. If you want to construct a fuel cell which requires 1 gram of platinum for anode, another gram of platinum for cathode, you require catalyst alone for 20 rupees, 20,000 rupees. Then you have membrane. If it is a 5 by 5 centimeter, I think there is some number. One centimeter square area of a Nafion membrane costs some $2,000, something like that. If for 10 by 10 centimeter, how much dollar it will cost, you can work out. And in terms of rupees, Indian rupees, you can work out. Very expensive. And in the case of batteries, anodes and cathodes are mostly in the solid state, mostly in the form of metals, metal oxides. Maybe in the case of metal hair batteries, the cathodes are in the gaseous state. Cathodes are gaseous state. In the fuel cell, the reactants are externally supplied. It is open system. Hydrogen is kept in a barrel or in a cylinder and it is fed through using some compressor or some mass flow controller. Oxygen is either you can suck from the environment or you can have a oxygen barrel or cylinder. Use a gas controller, release the high oxygen to cathode side. So reactants are externally supplied. No recharging is required. Only refueling is required. Only refueling is required for the fuel cell. Whereas in the case of galvanic cells or battery, reactants are internally consumed. In case of lead acid battery, lead and lead dioxide are the electrodes. Lead is consumed, lead dioxide also consumed. Lead is consumed to become lead sulfate. Lead oxide is consumed to become lead sulfate. In case of lithium-ion battery, so graphite becomes lithiated graphite and lithium cobalt oxide loses the lithium, internally consumed. Finished. I mean, it is compacted within the battery compartment. Nothing is exchanging. The mass is not exchanging with the surrounding, whereas mass is exchanging with the surrounding in the case of hydrogen fuel cells, and requires recharging. Periodic recharging of the battery is required if it is a secondary battery. If it is a primary battery, forget it. You have to throw it. Send it for recycling. This requires recharging, refueling. This requires recharging. The energy has to be supplied, not the material has to be supplied. Electrical energy has to be supplied. It's an interesting comparison between the fuel cells and the batteries. Similarly, we can also compare the fuel cells with the combustion engine. So what are the features of a combustion engine, you know? So it uses the maybe hydrogen rich fuel, not maybe, it uses the hydrogen rich fuel. It may be a petrol or gasoline or diesel or CNG or LPG, etc. Or hydrogen. Maybe if you travel in the United States, some vehicles are operated with the hydrogen gas stations available. Both use hydrogen rich gas, hydrogen rich molecule, hydrogen rich fuel. It may be a hydrogen, methanol, or gasoline, diesel, etc. And both requires oxidant. Compressed air is required. How much oxygen is required in the combustion engine? You must be knowing. Some oxygen concentration is required. There should not be too much oxygen concentration. There should not be too low concentration. I'm sure you have studied in combustion, fuels and combustion. There is a air fuel sensor, which is also known as lambda sensor. It's based on the electrochemical principle. It is available, this sensor is available for last 30-40 years before itself. and it is very much implemented in combustion engines, which takes care of the oxygen concentration in the combustion chamber. The oxygen concentration in the combustion chamber should vary between 3 to 5 volume percentage. Less than 3%, beyond 5 to 7%, there is going to be a risk in the combustion chamber. If it is low oxygen, you will emit more of carbon and carbon monoxide. If it is too much oxygen, uncontrolled combustion will take place because of oxygen. And of course, both requires cooling. Cooling it requires. Okay, so carburetor, some name you have in the engines, in combustion engines. Okay, in fuel cells also, temperature is increasing. For having enough performances, proper performances, temperature of the fuel cell must be conditioned. It should be kept constant. You need to have a cooling system. What are the differences between the fuel cell and the combustion engine? So the output work in the case of fuel cell is electrical energy, using which you can convert into any other energy. That's different. But the direct output of your fuel cell is electrical energy. You feed the hydrogen-rich molecule, you get the electrical energy. Whereas in the internal combustion engine or combustion engine, you feed the hydrogen-rich molecule, you get mechanical energy. Using that mechanical energy, you drive the motor, maybe you convert into electrical energy or run the vehicle. That is different. Okay. Then fuel and oxidants are electrochemically combusted. But in the case of a combustion engine, it is chemically combusted. You would have estimated how much oxygen require, how much fuel require. So what is the ratio? All those things I'm sure you would have computed last semester in combustion, fuel cell combustion. And fuel cell leads to no pollution, as we have seen. Zero emission, a new terminology itself arrived. ZEV. ZEV, yes, ZEV, zero emission vehicles. When we use fuel cell as an electric vehicle, for electric vehicle, the vehicle is termed as zero emission vehicle, ZEV, zero emission vehicle. But you cannot name such thing with the combustion engines, internal engine, gasolines. We have BS2, BS3, BS4 or Euro 6. We are currently in Euro 6. Or Tier 3. What are BS3, BS4 and Euro 6 and Tier 3? Anyone can inform? What is BS4, Euro 6, Tier 3? Anyone know? I'm sure you must, you know that. One of you please come out. BS4, what does BS4 mean? Euro 6, Tier 3, Tier 2 or Tier 3?
Pollution standards.
Pollution standards of India is BS, Bharat stage 4. We are in currently Bharat stage 4. When we say a vehicle is according to Bharat BS4, it means that it emits a certain concentration of CO, or combination of NO and CO, and a certain concentration of particulate matter. There is a defined number, very low number per kilometer. So the automobile manufacturers are enforced to adopt a DeNOx system in order to cooperate, in order to confine with the BS standard. Similarly, in European nations, Euro 6. In United States, Tier 3. Because the combustion engine, internal engine, produces the pollution, leads to the pollution because of the nature of the vehicle. And the fuel cells are not limited by the Carnot efficiency or thermodynamics. It is only limited by the poor efficiency of the catalyst or the poor conductivity of the electrolyte or poor oxidizing ability of the fuel itself, not by thermodynamics, unlike combustion engine. Combustion engine efficiency, according to Carnot engine, you cannot have 100% efficiency. This is the Carnot efficiency. Eta is equal to 1 minus TL by T high. Okay, low temperature to high temperature. You can never have 100% efficiency for Carnot engine. It is always less than 100% efficiency. So there is a connected numerical problem, which is one of the competitive exam question usually asked. So you can have look up this. For example, one wanted to calculate the maximum efficiency of a steam turbine operating at 400 degree with the water exhausted through a condenser at 50 degree. What would be the efficiency? So we have a turbine, a steam turbine operating at 400 degree, and the exhausted water at the condenser is 50 degree. What is the efficiency of the turbine we may have? Is it possible to estimate? Yes, it is possible. So convert this degree into Kelvin. Always you should remember that when you want to use this Carnot efficiency, you should use Kelvin, not the degree. You will get odd number. 400 plus 273, you will get 673. 50 plus 273, you will get some number. So now you know the Carnot efficiency. Low temperature to high temperature. Or you use T2 minus T1 divided by T1, T2 also you can use it. So the efficiency is hardly about 50%. 325 divided by 675. So hardly 50%. Hardly 50%. There is another numerical problem which is frequently asked in competitive exam. The same steam turbine operating at room temperature as well as freezing temperature of ice or water. That is the usual competitive question. Or between boiling temperature of water and the freezing temperature of the water. That is the question usually they ask. A turbine operating at boiling temperature of water and exhausting at freezing temperature of water, what would be the efficiency? 100 plus 273, then 0 plus 273. So use this Carnot efficiency. How much is the efficiency you can? If you take GATE exam, definitely such questions are used. During our days, I don't know whether these days they're asking that question or not. I think we will stop now. We will continue more.
Not visible.
Huh?
The second one is not visible, sir. Second question, sir.
No. Second question I just told it is not visible. I didn't add.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
So I think we will stop now. So we'll continue more in the next class. If anybody would like to add anything or make some comments, clarification, you can do so. So I think I gave some numerical problems, right? Please try to work out. I think we may take up, I don't know, next class or next class. Okay, it is long time. Okay, I have to complete more. After that only problem comes. After this one. Okay, 2-3 class later. Okay, see you. Take care. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
Someone asked something in the chat box. What is main issue that we still very less usage of fuels? Parikshat has asked, what is main issue that we are still very less usage of fuel cells? I think so you were silent because I gave explanation for that. It is very expensive. Very expensive of the membrane, very expensive because of the catalyst. It's not the problem of the technology. It's a problem of the affordability. Okay. See you. Take care. Bye.